It's time to sit back, relax, and listen to Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life will inspire, motivate, and empower you. Live your best life now. Listen, learn, think, and decide. Change your attitude, change your life. And now, here's your host, Joan Herman.
Welcome to Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. You're listening to us in your neighborhood from coast to coast and around the world. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Joan Herman, author, speaker, and your host. Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life brings you interviews with some of the most inspirational and influential people in the world. It's our goal to educate and empower you so you can live your best life now. Thank you for taking time for yourself, and thank you for letting us be a part of your life. We have another great show for you today. Joining me is Myss, a pioneer in the field of energy medicine and the author of many New York Times best-selling books. Her work has helped define how stress and emotions contribute to the formation of disease. Welcome, Caroline. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Joan. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Caroline, as I said in the introduction, your work has had a profound impact on millions of people around the world, and you've helped us understand the mind-body connection. In your work that deals with energy anatomy, what did you learn about the relationship between our emotional and psychological stresses and beliefs and our physical health?
We only have a few minutes. Well, let me just say that the connection, the integrated dialogue between all systems of our body, mind, spirit, soul, intuitive intelligence, spiritual intelligence, all of it is real. And I would put it this way, to think of ourselves as a train and the body's the caboose. What you see is the baked cake. It's all the other ingredients are the power ingredients. By the time something gets to the physical body, it's already complete. All the real power is in the world you can't see. It's in your intuitive intelligence, your spiritual, your emotional, your psychological, the depth of the intelligence, the complexity of it, and how it integrates with each other. And one of the most challenging, the mystical intelligence, how the mystical laws integrate with the physical laws, and the fact that we are a conduit in between those two dimensions. And the word dimensions, we don't even grasp what it is that we participate in multiple dimensions just by being alive. The fact that we are part energy, part spirit, and the alchemy of multiple dimensions that goes on in us just by breathing, just by being alive. And then if you add to it that the dimension that is energetic is not a participant in what we call time or space, because it can't be. I mean, by virtue of being the element of energy, the element of grace, it cannot have the principle of time, because time's a creation of the mind. So now you have part of us in complete timelessness that is also mixing with the part of us that's in time. We haven't even touched the surface of our deeper nature. We have our physiology, but our physiology is not our nature. And we have yet to weave these two together. So that, to me, is how I look at how we approaching ourselves. We have not even begun the weave of our basic nature, our archetypal nature, our soul nature. So what I understand really clearly now is that our sense of how we see things progresses. And that the first level of how a person sees things is that they will approach life from, how am I going to survive here? How am I going to survive? And the first level of survival is, I've got to control the world I live in. I've got to dominate. And when someone lives in control and dominating consciousness, the body will break down in a certain way. They'll have a certain set of values. They'll operate from a certain kind of fear base. They'll have very strong addiction tendencies. They will have very strong vengeance tendencies. They'll fit a certain profile, so long as their instincts, the tendency for them to lie will be 99%. They'll have a terror of telling the truth. Now, I'll put together a profile of that kind of person. And that kind of person will rationalize and say things like, I didn't tell the truth because I didn't want to hurt their feelings. I was just protecting them. But the truth is, they're so terrified of uttering one true word. This is the kind of person that drags her husband or his wife to a therapist, that they could figure out, they pay a person to utter one true word between a couple who actually sleep together and have children together, but they have not said an honest thing to each other in 20 years. That person, these people, are the type that will develop illnesses, survival illnesses. They'll have colon problems, prostate problems, ovarian problems, breast cancers. They'll have any number of these disorders because they break down their bodies. And the types of illnesses that form in the lower back have to do with the metaphors of being stabbed in the back, the fear of being raped, the fear of being attacked from behind. So those metaphors play out. So it's a complexity of the world, the dark world you dwell in, the fact that you are somebody who cannot negotiate your world without utilizing fear or manipulation, and you know it, and you can't get out of it. So you keep selling yourself off bit by bit by bit, agreeing to things you really don't mean. Acts of self-betrayal when your intuition surfaces and says, don't say that, don't do this, you don't mean it, but you can't get out of it.
So, Caroline, what's the answer? How do we get out of it?
Well, that's when one day, it's the truth, it's the story for everybody. It's the same story for everybody. One day you simply have to, and here's the story, take up your bed and walk. You simply have to be willing to let go of the entire world you've come from and said enough is enough. Nothing's worth the price of my dignity. Nothing's worth the price of my freedom. I'll start again. And you have to actually look and realize that is the same challenge for every single human being who has to start again with the journey of their liberation.
What tools can we bring with us when we start again so we don't make the same mistakes?
There aren't any tools except the first one, which is I'm out of here. And then you begin to develop your tools. Sometimes there's preparation. Sometimes if the route that somebody is beginning from is the route of the liberated battered woman or the liberated battered man, there's support groups, and you go there and you begin there. Sometimes you have to look and say, I've got to decide I'm willing to live with less. And you start with that decision. You start with a fundamental power decision that says, in order to become more, I'm going to live with less. And the exchange is worth it. The exchange is worth it. I'll live in one room in order to have freedom and leave a 10-room house. It's worth it. So you start with that tool, which is the power to make powerful decisions. That is a tool, and people don't get that. But the capacity to make a powerful decision is a tool, Joan. Because when you're sitting around and telling yourself, I can't, oh my God, my security, that's disempowering yourself and digging your own grave with a shovel, and you don't get that that's what you're doing.
Caroline, I read where you said, have no judgments about your life, no expectations, and give up the need to know what happens tomorrow. Be fully present and appreciate all that is in your life now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that goes along with what you're saying. Be in the present moment, be grateful for what you have. And even if you are starting over, start from there and don't worry about tomorrow. Worry about now.
Absolutely. And don't worry about yesterday. Don't keep trying to ask yourself, why did things happen as they did? You know, one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself is not to take your own life personally. And I mean exactly what I just said here. I mean, I do a radio show just like you do. And I have call-ins. And of course I teach everywhere. And I love, one of the blessings of teaching and one of the blessings of interacting with people is that I get to talk to them. And in every case, I wonder to myself, do you have any idea how much you could, change your life? But what fascinates me is how often a person puts the brakes on in their life because they can't stop asking, why did this happen to me? Now, here's your operative dangerous words, to me, as if the same thing has never happened to anybody. For example, the loss of a child. My mother lost a child, my brother. My aunts, every one of my aunts and uncles have lost a child. My grandmother lost 2 sons. Everyone in my family has lost a child. Everyone. I grew up either going to a hospital because one of my cousins had cancer, and then to a funeral. I grew up mourning the loss of my cousins. This is a very impersonal universe, Joan. There's nothing personal about the laws in this universe, that the consistency of the law of gravity, the motion of the tides, the way of nature. This is what a person needs to understand, that we are part of nature. We are a species of nature. We have made the mistake of thinking that we're not, but we are. We are as subject to the rhythms of nature as every other species. There's nothing about us that is not a resident species on this planet. And we think that we're different because we can observe the laws of nature, play with the laws of nature, tamper with them. But the truth is, that's a crime, if not a sin, against nature. And the fact is, we are simply another species. Now, what makes us different is that we can establish an intimate link to however it is you want to understand the divine through prayer. Prayer is what connects a person to, there's the laws of the physical world that cannot be tampered with, should not be tampered. We can't change gravity. We can't change cause and effect. But at the mystical level, these laws exist in the mystical realm. And there's the energetic realm, and then beyond that, there's the mystical realm, where those laws are present in our soul. Every thought is an act of creation. Every idea sets cause and effect in motion. Those are coming from, that merges with divine inspiration. God, tell me what to do. Help me out. What do you want from me? Why was I born? You engage mystical law there, mystical guidance, where the laws are conscious, and it's your choice whether or not to form that kind of bond, that kind of to have a sacred view of how this universe works. But at that point, what makes it sacred is that the link is one of the intimacy of prayer. It is prayer that makes you form an intimate connection with what is essentially a very impersonal universe. Life and death happens to everybody. Accidents happen to everybody. If you take your own life personally, as if you are an exception to the rules of nature, you're going to suffer.
Caroline, thank you so much for joining us today. If you'd like to get more information about Caroline and her work, you can visit her website, myss.com. That's MYSS.com. Caroline, in about 30 seconds or less, what would you like to leave our listeners with?
Well, I always like to impress in a person how empowering they are and how much power they have to make a difference in the world, however big their world is, and that nobody these days gets to use the excuse they're too old or they don't have enough money. If they do that, if they tell themselves that, then they have wasted all the years in their life in terms of learning the things that really matter.
Caroline, once again, thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure, Joan.
We'll be right back. Hi, this is Joan Herman, host of Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. Did you know that Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life has a free monthly digital magazine that can be read online or emailed to your inbox? Every month, nationally recognized leaders in their field provide information to educate, inspire, and motivate you. We believe in a holistic approach to life, incorporating mind, body, and spirit. Check out a copy of Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life 24/7. Visit cyacyl.com and be sure to tell your friends. Thank you for joining us today. We hope you found the show informative. At Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life, we believe that knowledge is power. Take what you've learned, apply it, and live your best life now. Remember that the information provided are the opinions of our guests and should never replace the advice of a professional who knows your personal situation. If you'd like more information, visit our website, cyacyl.com. That stands for Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. While on the site, listen to past shows on demand, read the digital magazine, take part in the book club, and be sure to follow the show on Facebook and Twitter. Until next time, this is Joan Herman. Thanks for tuning in.